Welcome to the Elegance of Nae. I'm your host, Nae, and on this podcast, we'll be talking about a variety of topics with amazing stories. Let's get into it, shall we? Hey guys, before we begin the show, we just want to give a quick shout out to TC's Art Gallery. That is T as in Tom, C as in Cat, S as in Sam, Art Gallery. They do amazing social media advertisement, logo design, website design, and they even help with social media management. Check them out today at tcsartgalleryllc.square.site. All right, let's start the show. So, continuing from episode 1, we're going to talk and elaborate more on the difficult year that I dealt with and how I got through it, So, let's start from the beginning, right? The year going back to 2021, late January, I just got my new car. It was my first car I got from a dealership, and I was really excited to show it off to my family and show, the hard work that I put in to get it and so on and so forth. Coming into the beginning of February is when I just got into work, and I was excited to go show my family, my vehicle when I got off my shift and just go from there. But I just got into work, literally, for my shift. And at the time, I used to work at Walmart as, a food stocker in the freezer area. And I just got in, I walked in, and I sat down in the break room, just waiting until my shift started. And I get a call from my mother. And she said, "Hey, where are you right now?" And I said, "Hey, I just got in, at work, and I just got dropped off. I'm just sitting here." And she was like, "Okay, you might need to call off work." And I was like, "Why? What's going on? What's going on?" And she was like, "Step outside." And at the time I was with someone, so she called that individual, and she told, him to turn around because she knew my mental was about to hear some news. So I go back to the front, with all my stuff. Well, not all of my stuff yet, but I went to the front to meet my significant other at the time, and he passed me the phone, and it was my mom again. I was like, "What's going on?" And she was like, "Your great-grandmother passed away today." And I kid you not, I literally felt like I couldn't breathe. And I know grandparents say, "Oh, that's my baby, that's my baby." No, that was my baby. I know it's weird to say that about your grandparents, but when you have a grandparent that is your heart, that is literally your heart, that is just so loving and caring and motivational and always have good energy, and you love them to death, hearing those words, it was just so devastating. And it was so mind-blowing. And it was so crazy. And I was like, wow, what? I was just so mind-blown. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to speak. I was just devastated. And once I got that news, I almost fell out. I didn't know how to breathe. It was just wow. I really couldn't understand it. And so once I heard that news, I went back into the break room, grabbed my stuff. Mind you, I'm sobbing after just hearing this news. And then I go back in, talk to I believe the manager at the time. She was over us, and I told her, I said, "I have to leave. I mentally cannot be here. I'm unstable. I just lost my great grandmother. I cannot be here." And she understood, and she wrote me off for the rest of the day because I was mentally not here. I couldn't do it. I was distraught. I couldn't function after hearing that news. And so once I heard the news, I went to my great-grandmother's apartment at the time because she switched from her home to her apartment. And when I went there, I saw, my other family members and everybody. And I wound up going in the building with my brother and my father at the time, and going into the building, and like all three of us was walking in there, and I just felt the tension. It was like a scene out of a scary movie where you don't want to walk down the hallway because you fear what's on the other end. That's kind of how I felt at that moment. And so I'm walking in, and then me just seeing her, and before saying like a full goodbye, it was just like what is happening right now? It felt so surreal. Like it didn't feel real. And I was just like, she's really gone. But how she was looking was like she was asleep. And I took that after the fact, of course, later down the line, that looking back at it now, it's like she looked at peace. She looked well rested. But in that moment, it was like, wow, she's really gone. And so with that being said, it was like somebody that's so close to you, you don't know when it's their last time. You don't know when it's their last moments with you. That's why I'm very careful with what I say to family or friends, because you don't know when it's the last moment that you have with them. And sometimes you have to take that in consideration when you're having arguments or disagreements with people. And I know sometimes we all be in the heat of the moment, but sometimes it's okay to walk away in the heat of the moment and just say, I'm gonna need a break from you, versus continuing something out and then you regret saying something once it's already been said and you can't take it back. So that's why I try my best to always say the I love yous and I got you or I care for you, because you don't know when it's the last time you'll see them. You don't know when that time away from them will be today, tomorrow, in a minute, in a moment, whenever. You don't know. So after I dealt with that day, it was difficult. It was really hard going on with my days after. And so probably a few weeks later, I go to the doctor because I was feeling a little funny. I wasn't feeling okay. I thought I was just a little stressed or upset due to the passing and everything. And I get a call, I'll go home, and I get a call on my way home from my doctor. And my doctor told me, oh, you're pregnant. I said, excuse me? I said, I was shook. I was like, oh, like what? I'm pregnant? No, I ain't pregnant. I'm pregnant? Like, I was really shook. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was a slight of excitement, but I instantly got sad after, because I felt like I'm about to bring a newborn into this life. And I just lost somebody I wanted to be the first to know. And I was just like, dang. Like, how am I about to get through this? Like, I know I have my mother's supports, like literally my mother's support, specifically like grandmother's, aunts, auntie's mother. But it's like one of the main people I would want to know I just lost in my life. And so moving on, of course it was, exciting news. And that was the only thing that was keeping me a little excited and trying to move forward and, trying to just carry on. And then literally probably after my great-grandmother's funeral, I would say, like, going into March, because her funeral was late February, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And going into the beginning of March is when I remember this day so vividly. I was going to get my ID picture taken, and I was going to get my ID picture taken. And before I left the house, I was spotting. Mind you, I'm still pregnant at this time. I was spotting. And those that don't know what spotting is spots of blood, right? So I just bypassed it. You know, I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. And I just carried on with my day like it was normal. I get to the place the Secretary of State, to take my ID license, and everything was good. I was okay. I was trying to stay high-spirited until I felt a very, very sharp pain in my stomach, and I instantly started crying so much, because I was like, no, this is not happening. And so I asked one of the ladies at the desk, I said, do you have a bathroom? She said, sorry, it's not for the public. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, okay. So I took my ID picture. I kept staying strong. I barely was crying. I did a couple of tears, but I, sucked it up, because I was like, I'm gonna be okay. I called my doctor. I made a quick emergency appointment. They took me in. I got rushed to the hospital to make it to my appointment. And the whole way there, I was running with tears, because I felt everything. And when I tell you, I mean everything. It's not like a regular menstrual cramp period or whatever. In a sense, for the ladies that understand, it's like a heavy period, but this time it's your kid. It's not a blood clot. It's your kid. You feel your kid coming. And that's a whole different level from a regular period, okay? And for the fellas that don't understand or don't know, it's kind of like getting hit in the stomach really, really hard, and it feel like your stomach is like about to drop or something. I don't know how to really explain it to elaborate for the fellas, but I'm sitting in the car and I'm just crying. And as we're getting closer, the person I was with, they grabbed a wheelchair for me, and I sat in the wheelchair. And when I sat down and I looked in the passenger seat, all I saw was blood in the seat. And it made me cry even more. And I was like, I kept trying to be positive. I said, it's going to be okay. I'm just trying to get upstairs to my doctor to see what's going on with my kid, what's going on with my baby. And as I'm getting upstairs, I'm sitting down. It slowed down. The bleeding slowed down. And as soon as the nurse come in before the doctor, she asked me to sit on the table or sit on the seat, to see, so they could see what's going on. And as soon as I try to get up out that seat, I felt it. I felt every last inch of pain. I said, oh no, this not it. Oh no. So they had to rush me down to emergency. And as soon as I got down to emergency, and they asked me, can you change it to a gown? And I go to the restroom, and I had assistance. I went to the restroom, And I went to the restroom and I felt everything come out. And I know that's a little graphic for those that are listening, but it was a lot that took place in the restroom, and it was very hurtful. That was my first time of me ever screaming in a bathroom, let alone a hospital before. I was screaming of pain, of all types of emotions, honestly, and it was hard. And then I go back into the section that the doctors took me to, that I was put in. And then, they had to do their tests and stuff and everything they had to do. And that's when they told me, and the person I was with at the time, that we lost our kid. And that was rough. That was really rough. And so I had friends of mine come bring me new clothes, because I was in my favorite dress that day. And I had my friends come bring me clothes and underclothes to wear from home. And I changed my clothes and I went home. And on my way home, I couldn't even talk. I couldn't talk. I didn't know what to say. And to tell family and friends what happened, those that knew I was pregnant at the time, I didn't know what to say. They were comforting me and trying to be there for me, but I just wanted to be left alone. And so when I got home, I had friends there, and I took a shower, freshened myself up, and then I went to sleep. I just went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, and I called my parents, and I told my parents what took place and what happened, and that it was really hard. That was a very hard moment for me, because they didn't know I was pregnant until then, because it was going to be a surprise after, it was just going to be a surprise of telling them, but we couldn't make it to the surprise. And even revisiting that day of me telling you guys this now, I'm still okay. It took me a really long time to say that. It did. And it's still hard to it's sometimes hard to go past Mother's Day and knowing that my kid would have been like 2 or 3 years old. Like, just me calculating how old my child would have been if my child survived. I've calculated that, and I have my moments sometimes, and it's hard. But I know I'm still okay. And so, once March was over, going later into the months, probably July or August, I get a few calls. One on my mom's side saying that a friend of the family passed away, and that he was sick at the time, I believe, of COVID. He passed away of COVID. And, that was something to hear as well. That was a little rough. Not too much, but it was still a little rough, because he was a good friend of the family. And then on my dad's side, I got word of our cousin passing away and losing him. And then going into August and September is when I found out that my aunt passed away. Now, with my aunt, I was really devastated as well with her, because she was the aunt that was so much fun. You could talk to her about anything without judgment. She would give you the best advice she could give you. She will keep the secrets to a lifetime. She won't tell nobody your business. And she gave nothing but love and genuality. And that's why I love her still to this day, of course. And hearing the loss of her was hard. It was so hard. And I remember that day vividly as well. I just came home from work. Just at the time, I was working at a different job. I was working for a Shurian. Just got home from a long day. Came in, my mom told me that news, and I was like, come on, man. I literally was like, you gotta be kidding me. I can't take no more of this. At this point, this is when the first time I ever felt numb. And what I mean by that is being numb of hearing so many losses already in itself. And I was just like, okay, this is a lot. This is a lot. And, before, and I almost forgot, in July, I had a dog. I had my dog, and she had kids. She was pregnant with kids, and we lost her and her kids from a heat stroke, her being outside, and that was devastating. And we were just like, dude, what in the world? But back to that day, it was just once she told me that, and then we had to go downstairs to tell my grandmother. That was hard. And on the same day, as me, my mother, my grandmother, and aunt, we all go to the hospital to say our goodbyes to her. And all the family pulls up to, say their final goodbyes. And then I get a call from my mom, because she's upstairs saying her goodbye while I'm downstairs. I get a call from my mom, and she tells me that my sister just got in a car accident. And she had my nephews and my brother-in-law in the car with her. And that a semi-truck driver fell asleep behind the wheel, and he almost ran her off the road. But thank God that they were okay, that they were not hurt or injured, that she was able to steer the car, and God helped her. I swear that was nothing but God protecting them. Because that would have been so much that day. So much that day. And so thank God that they were protected and they weren't hurt or injured from that day. That would have been 10 times more devastating to hear. That you just literally lost your aunt, and then hearing about your sister and your nephews and your brother-in-law being in the car, and they almost got hit by a semi-truck, or got hit by a semi-truck. That's just wild. So wild. And so I was just so thankful that they were okay. And I was just like, this is too much. That's the only thing I could literally repeat that day. This is too much. I was so over it. And mind you, in that moment, my grandmother on my father's side was in the hospital at the time as well. And she was dealing with COVID as well. And she was in the hospital at the time. And I'm just like, man, what is happening right now? What is going on? And so A week after going to see her, we're getting ready. Me and my family is getting ready to go to my aunt's repast. Not repast, excuse me, her viewing. We were going to her viewing, and as I'm sitting downstairs in my home getting my hair braided, I get a call from my dad, and he tells me that my grandmother passed away. The day of my aunt's viewing, he calls and tells me that my grandmother passes away. And I just started screaming. I fell out. I literally fell to the ground. And the only thing I kept saying is, what did they do to my grandmother? What did they do to my grandmother? I was screaming on the top of my lungs. I fell to the floor. I ran to my room. I didn't want to talk to no one. I was just through. I was so over it. So over it. I'm like, are you serious? Like, what is, like, literally, I kept saying, what is happening? What is happening? And so, once I heard that news, my mom came downstairs to see what was going on. My grandmother came down to ask me, what's the matter? Why am I screaming? And I told them that she passed away, and they were just sitting with me, and my hairdresser kept doing my hair. And I was just like, I was just quiet. I didn't want to say nothing. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I was through. And so then, once I got done with getting my hair done that day, we went to my aunt's viewing. And the whole time while being at my aunt's viewing, I'm up here being supportive to everyone and helping them grieve, while I'm in the back of my mind just thinking, I just lost my grandma today. And I got people coming to me and checking on me, and I wasn't even thinking about me. I was thinking about everyone else and seeing if they're okay, because they're grieving about my aunt right now. But they were, everyone was keeping an eye on me and seeing if I was okay. And all I could say was, don't worry about me. We here for auntie, let's focus on her. It's okay. I'm okay. Even though in the back of my mind, I am not okay. Whatsoever. I am not okay. At all. I'm not okay. And so, once I left the repast and made sure that everyone was okay, I took it all in. And I was so numb to the point where I couldn't even cry anymore. I couldn't really laugh. I didn't smile. I just was there. And I haven't even grieved at that time. I wasn't even grieving. I was just there. But the beginning year of 2022 is when we went to my grandmother's funeral. And that year in 2022 is pretty much that entire up until the end of the year. Majority of that year, I was so busy grieving. I didn't leave the house. I stayed in my room. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just stayed there. I was not myself. I was not okay. And that's okay to say. When you're grieving with any amount of loss, it's okay to say that you're not okay. It's okay to say that, because your acknowledgement for yourself is one thing, but saying it aloud and to others is another. And that's okay to say. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be a little angry, to cry, to actually grieve from the inside and out. But one thing I will say is don't bottle it up, because it'll eat you alive. It really will. And I know it's easier said than done, but don't bottle it up. If you can, just take a few moments if you are grieving and let it out. It's okay to let it out, because I'm pretty sure others are grieving with you. And if they're not, that's okay too. But don't bottle it up, because it's not going to help your mental or your physical. It isn't. But staying strong for others, but you're mentally not strong for yourself, that's unhealthy. And once again, I know it's easier said than done, but you're going to be okay. It's going to take time. Like I said before, it's going to take time to get to being okay. And that's okay too. It takes time for a lot of things. But taking your time through grievance it's gonna definitely hit different for you. As you see, I've been through a lot in 1 year, but I'm still here. And yes, it was a little difficult in talking about it, but I'm still here. But it took time to get here. I definitely know if it wasn't for, God's help and my friends and family support, I would have been in a deeper, darker space than anything. I wouldn't have gotten through those moments at all if I was alone. I wouldn't. Without a doubt, I would not. It takes time to get there. And it will take time for you too. Moving forward is one thing, but moving forward in healing is another thing too. I know it's not easy saying that you've healed, and it's not easy saying that you've grown, but it takes time to say those words. And it's another thing on meaning it and owning it too. I can definitely say I've healed from those moments, and I've grown as well. But one thing is for certain, it not only does it take time, but it shows that you've grown. It shows that you've healed. It shows that you are becoming someone, that you are someone. And that's okay. It's okay to show others that you're upset. It's okay to show others that something devastated you, that something bothered you, that something is taking your energy. But it's another thing of saying that I am healing from this. I am growing from this. I'm trying to stay positive from this. It's going to take that time for yourself. And it also comes from self-love as well, and the people that you chose to be around and who you have to have in your corner. It takes time to be around these individuals when you're grieving or going through losses or getting something taken from you that you are passionate about. It's okay to go through these things, but it's about how you push yourself and take that step to continue to be more of yourself after the fact. How are you healing from this? How are you going to grow from this? Are you okay? Are you okay? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Elegance of Nae podcast. I'm your host, Nae, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and also follow us at the Elegance of Nae podcast. Until next time, see ya.